Welcome to the Land Investing Business Secret Podcast, where each short episode we talk about the strategies, experiences, and the tools to help you launch, grow, and scale your land business. Learn how to find freedom within your own business, find out ways to build consistency in your processes, and hear how other everyday land investors are winning so you can get to the next step closer to building your dream life through your land business. And I'm your host of the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast by Pebble, Jesse Kwong. All right, how's it going, everybody? I've got a special guest here, Kay Walker. Kay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I hope you are too, Jesse.
I am. Hey, thanks for joining us. And curious, where are you joining us from?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
City.
Okay,
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kay, my team has been speaking very, very highly of you, and I'm sort of like waiting to not get in touch with you until we hop on a podcast here, because I just like to have like a more organic conversation, just to kind of get to know you. But can you perhaps give us an understanding of where you come in, how you got into land, and how that sort of all played out for yourself?
Yeah, so I've been in land only since last year in September. Well, September is when I started like fully going in. I did my first mailer in July, but I was still running my short-term rental company. So before land, I did short-term rentals, had a huge portfolio across North Carolina and Georgia, so 2 states. And that was a very, very hectic business. Did that for about 5 years and decided to kind of bring down the portfolio really small, sold that portion of it, and then got into land. So before I got into land, I thought I wanted to be like a developer. And so I took a local development class here from local developer in North Carolina, and that was great. But then I saw all of the steps and how long it took to do everything. So I went and bought a piece of land. It was 0.15 acres right outside city center for $70,000 from the owner. It'd been sitting there. No one had done anything with it. I didn't touch the parcel. I didn't know much about land at that time. I'm like, I'm going to take this development class. I'm going to build on this. I didn't know if I was going to sell it or hold it. I didn't know. But I got the piece of land. And then once I took the class, I'm like, I have to wait how long? And I have to do what? It's just like, I don't know. But one great thing that came out of that class was I understood how developers look at land and how they develop how much they're going to pay for it, that formula. And so once I knew that, I'm like, I bought this undervalued, like way undervalued, right? So once I found out that, I was able to, contact my realtor, and we put it on the market. And like, I think 3 days, we got it sold for like $140,000. So a double, just like that. Like, and so after that, the light bulb went off, and then I started like diving into YouTube. Didn't even know this community existed, like most people, and just kind of just went like, I'm like, how do you scale this? Like, how do you figure this out at scale? And so that was like my first introduction, and that was like probably 20. I got officially in 2024, so that was maybe 2023. Yeah.
Wow. So you got bit by the bug. That's awesome. So interesting. And I want to cover those two things there. You mentioned short-term rentals and then in development. But I'm curious, like, what was the short-term rental space like for yourself? Why did you decide to exit out of that? And, how do you sort of compare that with land? Because I know we have some listeners here who are also in the short-term rental space and also getting into land.
I think it may attract the same type of entrepreneur, to be honest with you. It's an arbitrage play, just like land is. We rent apartments, and some of them I own, but most of them are rent. So it was a easier way to get in the business. Buy all the furniture, you get somebody to come install everything, put up all the TVs, put all the linen in. They're like mini projects. I got really, really good at it, of setting them up really quickly and then putting a process in play with my cleaners to turn them really, really fast. And so because of that, and I think prior to my entrepreneur life in corporate, I was in project management and process improvement. So I think that kind of helped me look at problems a different way. And it helps me as an entrepreneur kind of figure out how to like put things in a process basically, and so you can be efficient at what you do. But it's a very, very feet on the ground, big team, very active business. That's what I'll say. And so, I remember like when I first had my first like studio apartment, Airbnb, and it was in like a beautiful high rise. And before I got a building to say yes to me, this was early on, I got a bunch of no's. Like I would get dressed up, go to the buildings, act like I already had a business, had the 800 number, everything. You had to be confident. And I got a lot of no's until like I got that one yes. And then that one yes just like snowballed, and it kind of just took off. And it was busy and it was exciting, but now that I am a little bit older, um, I don't want all that chaos all the time. And after COVID happened, the market changed, similar to the land industry, and you had to do more work for the same or less amount of profit. And so when it's something is that busy and that interruption is in your life, you think twice, like, okay, how do I want to live every day? And that wasn't necessarily it. So I wanted something a little more calm. And I think I just kind of got burnt out, to be honest with you, in that industry. The margins were smaller. We had to, chop some of a good amount of the portfolio, to be honest with you. And yeah, sold that to a good friend of mine, and they're operating it today, and it's great. Some of my team that worked for me for 5 years there, they're in the land business with me. So um, good transition, good transition.
That's awesome. And then I guess you got the ball running pretty quickly in the land space, and now you're in this space. Now, I'm curious with the development area. You mentioned you went through a course to learn how to develop land, and um, you mentioned now that you understand what developers are looking for, and you sort of can see it from their perspective. Maybe at a high level, what are some of those things that that you see or that you now look out for because you have that perspective?
Yeah, so I know it varies by market. I know in this market, they're going to pay about 20% of the market value of whatever they can build on it. So that's kind of like, as long as it has utilities. So they don't typically want to put in septic and well. They want the utilities at the curb, and they're just paying tap fees. So that's like the golden perfect scenario, right? And in metros like Charlotte, there are tons of areas that are being built up that were maybe not such great areas before, and you may drive down the street and say ew, but this tiny piece of land over here, it's worth $200,000, which is insane. So they typically look for land that is flat, that they can easily build on. They want to just go in and build up. They want to build vertical. So all of the more they have to do, the less they're going to pay for it, and the less desirable it's going to be. It's pretty much it. Yeah. When we're talking about like builders in metros, I'll say that. Yeah.
So does that mean you're actively looking for land that is you're going to offload to developers?
I I wouldn't say just that kind of land. Like that is part of our strategy, but I really just go where the data tells me to go. I only work in 3 states. I'm very, very localized to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. I lived in all three of those states. I can say that when I talk to people, and honestly. And so when they're talking to someone that lives so locally, I think it creates a different type of relationship and almost a trust. I just spoke to someone today who called, and she is just like super sweet lady. She lives maybe 40 minutes from where I live. Literally was just out there last week picking up contracts from a neighbor who wanted us to drop them off in person. He signed them and we picked them up, and literally same area. Lady calls me and she's just like, people told me this was landlocked. I said, were they local? She said no. she lives in the front of the lot. The other part of the lot is behind her. It's her backyard. And I'm like, I'll come by this week. We may be able to put an easement in place if you're fine with that. And she's just like, you can build a bridge. It doesn't matter what you do. I would love to sell it to you. And I said, totally great. I'll come by this week. I'll take a look at it. If there's a place for an easement, let's put an easement and I'll buy it from you. So I love being local. I know we can do this from anywhere. And I bought and sold land in Georgia without seeing it, of course, but it makes it easier to be honest with you. And I think it's to our advantage as investors to really get to know just a few areas and just a few states, because every state is so unique.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting? I just had sisters that were on, Mary and Ann, and this is exactly what we spoke about. So for those of you guys that are listening, there seems to be, and I sound like I might be echoing you, Kay, where being local, a lot of it also allows those relationships to be built, and you can do. It seems to just add a lot of lubricant to the business itself, and get things fast tracked. So it sounds like that's what you're saying. Now, what are those kind of like? Are there sort of specific local relationships you have? Maybe it's a real a realtor, or it's somebody who's bird dogging, or what is it for you that local makes this even better?
The survey folks, the engineers in the counties, you know them by name. The soil guys, the realtors, the whole team. Like I call them a team. People that go and do the clearing of the land. Because once you have like one contact, like that's their job. That's how they make a living. And if you keep bringing them your business and you're easy to work with, you're pleasant to work with even. Like it just makes it easier. It's a win-win for everybody. So they may have a schedule that's 4 weeks out, but you reach out to them and maybe they get you in a week, because of that relationship. But it makes it easier when you have that repeat contact list for things that you need done. Because I remember first starting in this, the biggest hurdle was how do you get this done, right? Like, who do I contact for the soil test? Like, who do I contact at the county for this? Like, you have all these things. It's just like connecting those dots is the hardest part, I think, for new people. And then you're talking about financing and all these things. Like, I think being local, it does provide a easier environment for you to work in for the long term, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Curious, this is sort of a off-topic question here, but do you do anything to sort of make sure you maintain a good relationship, like a little bit above and beyond than just giving them more? I don't know, even like, do you ever, go out for coffee or perhaps send them a gift or anything like that? Is there anything that you do to sort of, again, continue to maintain that relationship/friendship?
I think it's normal. Like when my realtor will go out to lunch, friends with, his family. So they have a baby or baby shower, whatever, like we're there. It's kind of like a little family relationship as far as that relationship is concerned. But yeah, we'll send donuts, we'll send breakfast. My surveyor, we just dropped off a Chick-fil-A gift card for them for breakfast 2 weeks ago. So yeah, we do all that kind of little stuff, to build that relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something very personal that a lot of people don't really talk about, and I think it's really important, those kind of things, to show your appreciation. And I don't think anybody really talks too much about that. But that just sort of came to mind, when you're sort of working with somebody so locally and you know them as a person, it never hurts to do some nice things for people. But anyways,
It is. It's very, very good to do nice things for people. It feels good on the human side of things, but then it also helps, like, just that side of the business. It just helps it too, so it's a win-win.
yeah, and I think it's so easy. We've talked about it many times with different guests here. It's just so easy to kind of hone in on numbers, and this is a deal making game, and and that's all it is, for a lot of people. But when you sort of go the extra mile, it does make literally a world of difference.
Yeah, on both sides, like our partners that we work with on the land side and with the end user, the customer, like looking at both of those those people as humans, and need to build those relationships. I think you approach the business different than just looking at it as just hard numbers on a spreadsheet. The numbers are important, of course, they're important, but the human side of it, I think, is more important because people aren't looking at it that way. Most people are not. I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Quick question here about developers. You're coming with property to developers. What's stopping developers from looking for properties themselves? And does that happen? You coming having a little bit of education in that space.
Yeah. I just don't think they have the marketing engine that we have. To be honest with you, this is what we do, and it's so funny because even realtors who sell houses, they are in sales. When I tell them about like the direct marketing strategy we have, they are just blown away. Like they're like, direct mail, like what? Like my realtor was like, can I come over one day and you kind of show me how you do that? Like, like how are you getting all these deals? And so I think it's just foreign in that industry, which is so, I don't know if that's going to change. I don't know if it's not foreign in some, companies, and we just don't maybe know about it. But I just don't think it's what they do. Yeah. Yeah. Especially the onesie twosie ones. That yeah, they definitely their main goal is just to get the house up quick as possible and get it sold.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I asked you before the show here, was this your office? Is this where you're operating? You had the printer going there, and you're like, there's a lot that goes on here. And it's so cool because, I can imagine like, you coming from the short-term rental space, you've got all these processes. Like, tell us what is this whole, I mean, you mentioned direct mailing. Help us understand, what does this whole operation look like for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. The printer was just going here. We're getting some stuff off the printer, our little letters here. Um, but we we don't do any cold calling. We don't do any text messaging. When I was self educating, and I took some courses too. Um, for me, I was like, okay, I have to narrow down which one of these marketing channels I want to do. And then when I got confident in one, I was like, should I add this or should I? Could you hear success stories, especially when you're new and you're like, oh man, this person's doing so great with text. This person's doing so great with calls, and you hear Ajay and you're just like, oh my God, and you get excited about it. And I'm just like, I'm going to do direct mail. It is the least active marketing channel, um, and then we'll see how that goes. And since I started it, I've decided to stay in it and not deviate from that because when you talk about a marketing channel, I don't think people talk about everything else that goes with it. The data, right? How are you going to store the data? How are you going to track the data? Your KPIs, everything. Every marketing channel has a different process and other system that you have to connect or integrate with it, right? To be efficient, whether it's a launch control, or whatever they use for cold calling. So I am just like horn in on one thing and become really, really, really good at it. And so maybe in the future we'll add something else later on. But mail is my thing. Um, in short-term rentals, sometimes you get beat up by the travelers because they're traveling and they're angry or they're mad because there wasn't enough sheets left out for them. Stupid little things, right? And so coming into this, I was not here for that. I was just like, you know, when you do cold calling, when you do text messaging, there is a lot of, I'm not gonna say angry, but there is a lot of people you're interrupting their day, right? And so I wanted to talk to people that were extremely qualified and they actually had to pick up the phone and call me, right? And so that is the client that I wanted to speak to, and that's why I chose direct mail, and that's why I choose to stay with it. But yeah, as far as like the so it's it's a whole process, everything. But we start with market selection. And like I said, I stay in 3 states, and we basically take a look at activity. We take a look at sell through rate and days on market. And then we break that down by zip code and acreage bands. So 2 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20. and we see what acreage man does best in what zip code based on those three metrics. And then we pull all of our data. Well, I'll say I pull all of that data. I'll take about 2 full days, like long days, sitting there doing this. But that sets us up for about 6 to 8 weeks of data that is very, very targeted. So once we have that market selection down, I go and I clean all the data, price all the data. We only want to market to stuff that's over 50K in market value or higher. And then we break them down into tiers. Stuff that's 50 to like $150,000 will get a certain tier one mailer, as we call it. And then we have like stuff that's up to maybe 300,000, and then stuff over 300,000 gets like a very premier expensive mailer that costs us like $375 a piece at cost to mail, right? But it's literally like we clean all the addresses, we get it in the format post office likes to see so they can read it easily. We really do a lot up front because the mail costs so much for us to do it in-house. But the type of leads we get are so solid. And the people who call us, I don't do you do land? Jesse? You used to be in land. Okay. So we get like, I don't know if you've ever pulled a county or zip code and you notice like the name of the streets are the names of the owners of the parcel of land. Like that's how long their family has owned that land and how prominent they are in that community. Those are the people we're getting to call us back. They have owned land there for a long time. Streets are named after them. And, it's worth $500,000 and up type of thing. And they call and say, no one has ever sent me something like this. We get so much crap mail. Like we get so much of it. And I decided to call you back because I was impressed. And that's what they say. That's what they say. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. Now, I'm curious. So you're doing it in-house. So tell us what that operation looks like. You're printing them. What's on there? You're printing them, and you can give us at a high level if you want.
The printing is done here. We have multiple printers and lots of toner. we and then we do a lot of other material that we can't make here. So we get it customized and we order it in bulk and we get it delivered here. And then we kind of like get super creative and just go in and just. We have, the mail meter here. We have the weigh thingy. We have like the little folding machine, the inserter machine. Like, yeah.
You literally have your own printing press and mailing factory there. Okay, very cool. And I know that you're also adding a code on there as well to track all of this. I know you're big on to sort of tracking. That's another reason why you sort of came to doing mailing. So explain to us how that all works for you guys.
Yeah, so when I first started, I would like read the forums and I'm in the Discords, and I'm hearing people like track campaigns by getting new phone numbers for each campaign. And I was like, that can't be right. That can't be the most efficient way to track a campaign. Like what? And then when I first started, I even did my own little codes. I made my own codes, like NC, then the date, and then like the zip code, something crazy, and then I realized like there was Pebble and you guys actually put codes on it for us. And I was just like, where has this been? That was a game changer. And it housed all of our data too, which was nice. So now my acquisition manager, she can punch in the reference code and it just pulls up the record, which is really, really nice. So that helps a lot. And it also, we do a lot of micro campaigns. So we'll do like a campaign like 99 leads in it, 115 in it. And so when we do that, it's really nice because we can track every single micro campaign, how many contacts, because even if they call, text, or email us, we put in our marketing material very heavily. Hey, when you call in, make sure you have your reference number. Like, make sure, even if you're calling to say, don't call, like, give us your reference number so we can update the record, So when they call, we already framed them where they have that reference number for us. And so we enter it in, It creates the deal in our board for us. And that's how we keep track of how many contacts we have. Like before, I was just on my whiteboard going through what we did for January, just because it takes a couple months for everything to season for the numbers to get right. So, and we're able to quickly see how many contacts from these campaigns, and we label the campaigns based on the marketing, or if we're doing A/B testing with marketing to kind of see what got a better contact rate, all of that stuff. So having a CRM like Pebble is instrumental, to be honest with you, in this business.
Just so that the listeners know, I think a lot of people end up coding their property, and what we sort of do here is actually we code the individual pieces of marketing so that you can actually tell, if you've mailed a certain property 3 4 times, from the code which mailer that was specifically associated with the property. And that's sort of a nice way to be able to now run split tests and see how marketing goes. So
It is, because we can look back, Jesse, and we can say, man, we mailed this person 3 times. They called us back on this fourth campaign with this particular mailer. And you can see that, and it's really good because we mail the same markets over and over and over again. So having that record there and having a unique code each time is just, it's super, super important to just have that insight into your processes. So
yeah, yeah, and especially from someone like you who's like super process driven, and I feel like that's probably a key reason why you could scale up so quickly. Like knowing your process with STRs and short term rentals, it's just like you must be able to own it. And you mentioned you come from like a product management background too, so it's like you live and breathe processes. No?
yeah, I think I do. Like, one bad thing though is like it's always up here, and like I have to like do better with actually putting it down on in a nice like PDF format. But yeah, everything has to be, every time I look at something, anytime we have a hurdle or issue, I'm like, how do we solve this? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? How do we make it dummy proof? Like that is um that is the process there. That is how I think about things.
It's so funny. It's like you mentioned, like when you came in, you heard about cold calling, texting, mail, whatever, all these different channels, and it's like I feel bad because I invite everybody to talk about different things, and it's like I don't know what the listener is feeling like. They must get this sort of shiny ball syndrome, like, oh my god, so and so said this works, and then like Kay said this works, and it's like I try to repeat this as much as I can on the podcast. It's like stick with one thing. I've heard everything works and everything doesn't work. So, just stick with one thing. What resonates with you? Kay mentioned here why she wanted to go with mailers, why it works for her. And maybe it lines up with her history and her skill sets, and figure out where that might be for yourself. And yeah, it's so easy, right, Kay, to get, as an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get pulled in so many directions, especially marketing. It's like, with marketing is such a challenging thing. You got to figure out what levers actually work. Now, luckily, in the space of land, it's been proven that all these different channels can work. So it's a matter of you like figuring out what works for you, what you want to go with, and then doing what you're doing, like differentiating. Like that's incredible what you guys are doing. And you guys got the QR code and all of that. And you're tiering out your mailers as well with, more expensive kind of mailers. That works for you guys. And that's so awesome. So for those of you guys that are listening, maybe you're doing something different, and it works for you. Stick with that. You don't have to get pulled in the direction that Kay is going in. But yeah, but what you should get out of this, I feel like, is look at what Kay's doing in terms of differentiating. Look at her push the limits. She's literally got full, things that will put it in the envelope for her, and the way that she's tracking. So I hope that as you guys again are listening, you're not going to get pulled into a different direction, but really look further and dig deeper. It's that sort of line. It's like dig only a few inches wide and a mile deep, and you've clearly done that. But it's interesting with mailing because it's like the marketing strategy that has stuck around. And again, I hope I don't sway people, but I've just seen an uptick with people interested in mailing again, which is really cool to see that. Curious, Kay, like How much mailing are you doing in terms, like, how many properties are you reaching out? You said you set yourself up for about 6 to 8 weeks. What's the number of mailers? And then can you let us know, maybe at a very high level, what's sort of your ROI with mailers?
Yeah. And I just want to like go back a second for what you just said about sticking with one thing. I think it's hard because people come into the business with all the social media and the podcast and everything, and it kind of seems like, oh, this is like a side hustle or something you could do really quickly, and it's not that. Especially now, I wasn't around when it was like super easy, which I hear it was. Like send 1,000 mailers, get 4 deals. Yeah, I started in 2024, when I hear it was rough. And that's when I came into it. But I think it's really hard for when people hear, oh, this is so easy. They get into it and they're 60 days in and they haven't made a dollar and they've been spending all this money on mail or text or cold calling. It's very easy to say, let me switch and try something else. And I would just tell people that your what you learn, it compounds, right? So if you're spending 2 months learning something, you decide to switch and go another way, you're wasting all of that time, all of that energy that you spent in those 2 months learning, maybe cold calling, out the window. Stick with one thing. You're Stick with it and get good at it. It may take some time, and it's going to take time with any vertical, to be honest with you, to get really, really good at it. But I just wanted to say that.
No, I completely agree with you, and it's one of those things with land, or other sort of side hustles, or businesses. It's land, especially, it's so easy to get in, and this is why we see with a lot of people. Like, a lot of people ask me, Jesse, like, you get to see a lot of what's going on with land. I tell you, we're seeing, like, pretty much almost the exact of people coming in, and number of people leaving, and it's always the same reason. And probably the biggest reason of churn for our product, Pebble, is they are not finding success. They're still new, and and so stick with it. It is one of those things. It's so easy to get into land, but realize this is not a unicorn business at all. I will anti-sell you on this business. Yes, when I first started, I was lucky. This is my first mailer. I did lock down 3 properties with this postcard here, but it's not like that. And so this is like any other business, but it can be super rewarding as well. So, anyways, I'll sort of echo what you said.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely can. So numbers. So right now and I did these before I got on too, so I could speak to them. I started doing mail from home in November. So it's been 5 solid months. Okay, and I'm looking up here. Sorry, not in the camera. So of that time, we have sent 24,111 pieces of mail. Um, we have actualized only, and this is what I want to say, like, this is not a get a deal, you get paid in 2 weeks type of thing. So let me just break this down for you. It's been 5 months, okay, sending that mail. And wires that have hit my account, it's only about $72,000 worth, okay, in those 5 months. And that is 4 deals, like, that have went full cycle in that time. But in that time, so many other great things are happening. We're A/B testing, we're getting mail out there, and we have under contract over $750,000 net profit in pipeline right now. These are signed PAs, listed properties on the MLS. This is stuff that is about to close, it hasn't closed yet. That type of thing. So it does take a while, but once you get past that 3-6 month mark and you are being very targeted in one marketing channel, you can't like jump around. It works. It works.
You're telling us a 750 potential, well, pretty much net profit.
And we can even say, I think the average is a 30% dropout rate. That's stuff that doesn't make it through title for whatever issue. We can even throw that in there and just say, half a million, right? Let's just throw that.
Wow, that is incredible. I mean, actually, I'll let you continue here. We talked about so. Oh no, you did. You mentioned the number of mailers you're doing. So roughly about 24,000.
About 4,800 a month as far as mailers. And I look back at some of the deals that we did when we first started. And the goal was to hit 2.5 or to $3 million in net profit by the end of 2025 was the goal. And I think we're going to definitely exceed that. And we're a tiny team. It's me, it's my acquisition manager, and my mailhouse guy. We call him mailhouse. We don't even have a name for him.
You should get him a name.
He's like, he used to be my warehouse supervisor in the short-term rental company. Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So that and they're local, like acquisition manager, like, so we're together a lot of days a week. We have our weekly meeting, where we're starting to have it more consistently here, but we see each other all the time. Like, we talk all the time. Like, it is, I prefer that. I know VAs are cheaper. Um, but it's just different, working with people that are local, that that you have a relationship with. They work with you before. They trust you as far as business is concerned, and they're willing to, like, follow your lead and fight for whatever we need to fight for, right? Whether it's that difficult person on the phone, or having to drive, hour and a half to a property or something like that. Like, they're down for, which is really, really great. But my goal with this is to try to maximize our profit with not a huge team. I don't want a huge team. I have a big team with Church Reno, but I don't want that. So to have the team we have, and our mail is more expensive, but we're not sending a whole lot out, in my opinion, a month. So we're trying to go from um, our average our average net profit on our first deal in the beginning was that 18 to 20,000 range. And that was like after funders. And of course, funders took half of that, right? 'Cause in the beginning, you're learning, and you're JVing, but as you get more experience, as you learn this business more, you get cheaper capital. And that, just getting cheaper capital, has increased our profits just like that, our bottom line just like that. You're not giving 30% away to a funder, right? And so the it's just instantly like that. And we're working on bigger deals. Like, we're learning, that a lot of times the same energy that you're going to put into a deal that makes you 20,000, another deal can make you 80,000, right? And so we're kind of doing more deals. We're adding a little bit of value add to our deals now, like clearing driveway, making sure the perk is done, stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, no, we love the two guys over at Priced. Anyways, I think to sort of wrap this up here, there seems to be a couple common themes that I'm seeing here. One, you're really hyper focused on your local area. You're really also hyper focused on. I mean, you're not hyper focused on this, but you've got a team that you're working with in person, and relationships are really important for you guys. So I feel like that almost comes together, like working in a localized area and relationships is one thing. And the other thing, it seems like, again, you've got processes in place, and the importance of process for you, especially, again, coming from a product manager background to a full scale on short-term rental business, and then now in land. Amazing to see what you've done in the space of land in just the amount of time. And then, I hope this sort of gives those that are getting started a little bit more inspiration, motivation here, because I think you're right. A lot of people come into this space with it being like what it was 10 years ago, or even 6 years ago, type of thing when I started, and it's a totally different ball game. And I think I've been sort of harping on this: processes. This is what allows you to really I don't want to say the word compete, but really allow you to thrive in this space. So Kay, is there anything else you can leave us with the listeners here, whether they're started or getting their inland? Any thoughts that I feel like you have so much wisdom because you've just gone through so much in entrepreneurial space, life journey. But yeah, is there anything that we didn't get to cover that you want to mention here?
Oh man, there's so much. I feel like we have to have a part two. But in land and in business, I feel like I'm literally learning every day, especially in land. You're learning something new every day. I will tell anyone new that just know it will take longer than 3 months. Expect 4 or 5 months before your first deal goes full cycle. Just as far as expectations, expect to have enough runway and capital to do marketing and stay in one marketing field for 5-6 months. To be completely honest with you, because that's what it's going to take. And don't just keep doing the same thing, and not measuring your results. A/B test and get a CRM that allows you to do that. And don't hire everything out. Like, don't hire anything out. Like, I meet people sometimes, they have a whole team and they haven't closed one deal. Like, why? So like, you have to get in there and do everything yourself initially so you can learn it and you know what good looks like, right? And you know what's affecting your results or what's not affecting your results. So I think that's very important. Don't jump in and hire a big team of VAs or folks, and just kind of get in and get your hands dirty, and it will take longer than what the gurus tell you. So that's it.
100%. Doing the work. It's like grind work that you got to do. So, Kay, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How can our listeners be useful to you, or how can they connect with you? What sort of where are you, and if they can sort of even be of use to you?
Yeah. So as far as where I am, I'm in Discord. I don't know if a lot of people use that, but land folks. But I'm in Leah's Discord. I'm in the Apke Brothers Discord channel. I'm pretty active in there. I'm on Facebook, just K Walker. I'm in some Facebook groups there. And I don't know. I don't know how people can be of service to me, to be honest.
Okay, hey, I mean, you're there, you're connecting with others. So if you ever want to connect with Kay, you know where she at. So Kay, thank you so much for coming on the podcast here, sharing us your journey and what you've got set up here, and sort of diving into the nitty gritty with your marketing as well. We really appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you, Jesse. Talk to you later.
Before you stop this episode or hit the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast by Pebble. If you found this helpful, we greatly appreciate any awesome reviews and ratings on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast or the specific episode that may help them on their land investing journey. Once again, thanks so much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.